Have you ever woken up one morning and suddenly realized that the child you raised, nurtured, and sacrificed so much for no longer listens to you? It can hit you like a bolt out of the blue. One day you're the primary caregiver with all the answers, and the next, it feels like your opinions and experiences are dismissed. You've spent a lifetime supporting them, spending countless dollars on their education, driving them to practices, and helping them navigate the ups and downs of life. But now, instead of being appreciated, you feel like an invisible figure. This shift can be truly shocking and heartbreaking. It can leave you wondering why things have changed so drastically. You loved them unconditionally, gave everything, and now you're left feeling disregarded. Lesson and application message. But in all the surprise and pain, there's one thing we need to remember. This change is not the end, but a turning point in both your and your children's lives. Yes, as children grow older, they begin to carve out their own lives, and that's perfectly natural. But when you feel ignored or disrespected, instead of drowning in anger or disappointment, you need to find ways to reset and reclaim your place calmly and confidently. Because respect cannot be forced or demanded, it is something we must build and show through our actions and how we live our lives. We often think that love means sacrifice and putting our children's needs above our own. But in reality, true respect comes when we respect ourselves. When we stop seeking validation from our children and stop depending on them to feel valuable, the relationship becomes healthier. That's the most important message we need to remember. Respect is a process, and it starts with loving and respecting ourselves. When you begin protecting your own time, space, and needs, your children will start to see you as the figure they once admired and respected. This not only helps regain their respect, but also builds a stronger, more balanced family bond. And remember, love doesn't mean giving up everything and forgetting about yourself. True love is when we know how to balance, when we live for ourselves with our passions and goals. Children will see this and naturally respect you more, love you more. You're not just someone who gives endlessly. You are someone who has a full, meaningful life. When you take care of yourself, they won't just appreciate you, they will respect you as a role model for life. Remember that respect isn't something you can demand, it's something you can inspire. It's not about forcing them to acknowledge your worth, but showing them through how you live, how you face challenges, and how you see yourself. Respect is contagious. When you respect yourself, others will learn to respect you. When feelings of anger or disappointment take over, facing your children to regain respect can be incredibly difficult. You might want to remind them of everything you've sacrificed and how you deserve respect in return. But in reality, responding with anger or accusations doesn't solve the issue. It only makes things worse. It creates tension, and before long, it distances your children from you even more. When we react angrily, it's not just our words that change, but our entire attitude. This pushes them further away. Lesson and application message. It's surprising to realize that maintaining calm and solving problems with respect and understanding is far more effective than getting angry or starting arguments. Calmness is strength. It not only helps you preserve your dignity, but also shows those around you that you treat them with respect. Only when you remain calm and self-controlled during tense moments will your children realize that you are someone who can teach them valuable life lessons the right way. Take the true story of Frank, a father who faced a similar situation. His children, although loving, would often dismiss his advice and fail to show respect. At first, Frank reacted by arguing, reminding them of all the sacrifices he made and demanding they listen. But all he got in return were avoidance and resistance. Instead of continuing the argument, Frank decided to change his approach. He stopped trying to convince them with words. He simply maintained his composure, listened when his children spoke, and showed respect through his actions. The results were astonishing. Over time, his children started to notice his calm strength, and slowly respect was restored. Frank's story is a wonderful example of how, in every relationship, especially in families, calmness and self-restraint are the keys to rebuilding respect. By not letting negative emotions control your actions, you show others that you have inner strength and deserve respect. Your children will no longer see you as weak or untrustworthy. They will see you as a steady, admirable figure. The important message here is, when faced with any disrespect, don't rush to argue or retaliate. Find ways to stay calm and patient. Like Frank, you can show respect by listening and responding in a composed manner. That's how you rebuild respect in your relationship, especially with your children. Life is filled with challenges and difficult times, but if we know how to maintain our dignity and calm, we don't just build healthy relationships, we also set an example for the next generation. Remember, respect isn't something you can demand, it's something you create through your actions, calmness, and self-confidence. There's a hard truth to face when you realize that your children no longer see you as the center of their world. They may have their own families now, their own busy lives, and you've become a smaller part of their lives. This doesn't mean they don't love you, but it signals that you need to change how you view and approach the situation. You can't keep living for your children, sacrificing everything for them while forgetting about yourself. To regain their respect, you have to start respecting yourself. Rediscover your value and build a full, independent life. You can't keep waiting for your children to call or visit. You must create your own life. Lesson and application message. What's truly surprising is that when we begin to rediscover ourselves, to build our own life, those changes actually make our children see us in a new light. Think of Helen's story. She was a mother who spent her entire life caring for and worrying about her children. After her children got busy with their own families and jobs, she began to feel lonely and spent her time waiting for their calls. But instead of continuing to wait, Helen decided to change. She enrolled in an art class, started meeting friends, and even began volunteering at a community center. These small changes led to an unexpected result. No longer the mother who only waited, Helen became a woman with a life full of meaning and joy. And the magic happened. As she became more independent, her children began calling more, visiting more. They no longer felt obligated to call, but actually wanted to hear about her new adventures. The message here is you cannot rely on your children to feel valuable. You must create value for yourself first. When you stop waiting for their recognition, you'll see your relationship with your children change for the better. Independence and self-reliance will turn you into an inspiration and a source of respect, instead of being a burden or pressure on them. One of the most important things to remember is, when you live a full and meaningful life, you not only make yourself happy, but then also gain more respect from those around you. That's the key to building a healthy family relationship. Respect is not something you can demand or ask for. It's something you create through the way you live. You need to live a life full of passion, discover new hobbies, set new goals, and not seek validation from anyone but yourself. When you do this, you become not just an inspiration for your children, but a person of value and respect. Finally, the lesson here is never forget that you deserve to have a fulfilling and meaningful life, not just for your children, but for yourself. When you rediscover joy and passion in your own life, you'll realize that not only are you making yourself happy, but you're also inspiring those around you, especially your children. Build a life where you are not just a nurturer, but also someone with your own dreams and goals. When you do this, respect will naturally return, and your relationship with your children will become deeper and more enduring than ever. When you start to feel like your children are showing you disrespect, many parents' natural reaction is to demand that they change. You might want to remind them of all the sacrifices and effort you've put in over the years and demand that they recognize your worth. But the truth is, this approach doesn't yield the results you expect. The more you argue or demand respect, the more the distance and tension between you and your children grow. So is there a better way to regain respect without resorting to arguments or direct demands? Lesson and application message. What's surprising here is that instead of demanding respect, you can actually create it naturally through the way you live and act. It may seem hard to believe, but the reality is that respect doesn't come from words or demands. It comes from how you behave and how you view yourself. One of the ways to earn respect is by living a full life with your own goals and passions. When you no longer wait for recognition from your children, but instead live your own life with value, with some respect will naturally return. We often tend to think that loving our children means constantly fulfilling their every need and sacrificing ourselves. But the truth is, when you always place your children's needs ahead of your own, you lose sight of yourself. That's when the relationship becomes unbalanced and respect begins to fade. For your children to respect you, you first have to respect yourself. When you show that you have your own life, with your own interests, passions and goals, your children will start to appreciate you more. You are not just living for them, you are living a life that is admirable and full. The story of Margaret is a perfect example of how, when you change your approach to life, everything can change for the better. Margaret, in her younger years, was a strong, confident woman who wasn't afraid to express her opinions. But when she retired and her children grew older, she began to feel left behind. Her children started making all the decisions for her, and she gradually let them control every aspect of her life. Margaret felt hurt and disrespected. But instead of sinking into helplessness and sadness, she decided to change. She no longer accepted living a life of submission to her children. She began to rediscover her passions, participate in social activities, and most importantly, speak up confidently. The result was surprising. Her children began to see her in a new light, not as someone useless, but as a mother with her own life and value. Margaret's story is a powerful reminder that respect cannot be demanded. It must be earned through actions. You may not change the way your children treat you overnight, but if you change how you see yourself and live a confident, independent life, their respect will return. When you take care of and love yourself, your children will learn to love and respect you more. The key lesson here is, don't wait for recognition or respect from your children. Create value for yourself. When you live a full and meaningful life, your children will see your maturity and strength. Respect is not something you can demand. It's something you create through the way you live. Live in a way that your children see you not just as a parent, but as someone admirable and worthy of respect for what you're doing for yourself and your life. When you begin to notice disrespect from your children, many parents may think the best approach is to demand that their children treat them better. But surprisingly, that's not the most effective way to regain respect. Instead, setting clear boundaries and standing firm with respect is the key to restoring a healthy family dynamic. Accepting disrespect only teaches your children to value you less, whereas standing firm and protecting yourself by asserting your boundaries will make them recognize your worth and respect you more. Lesson and application message. What's surprising is that when you don't let your children's disrespect affect you, but instead show determination and protect yourself, it is that very determination that becomes an essential factor in restoring the family relationship. When you know how to stand up for yourself, show self-respect, and demand that others treat you properly, you're teaching your children an important lesson about respect and dignity. Think of Robert's story. He was a father who had to face situations of disrespect from his children. At first, he always tried to compromise, doing whatever it took to please them and maintain peace. But when he realized that this wasn't yielding any positive results, he decided to make a change. Robert became more assertive in demanding respect from his children, even in simple conversations. He no longer allowed them to interrupt or disregard him. Slowly, his children realized that respect is not something automatic. It has to be built through behavior and actions. Only when he stood firm and demanded respect did they begin to understand that he deserved it. This makes us realize that respect is a process, and it starts with yourself. Nothing comes easily. Everything has to be built from your actions and your resolve. If you don't protect yourself, you can't expect others to respect you. When you demand respect through clear, firm actions, your children will gradually recognize your worth. And another key lesson is, respect must be nurtured from both sides. When you set healthy boundaries and firmly protect yourself, you're also teaching your children how to set boundaries in their own lives. This not only helps you regain respect from your children, but also teaches them how to treat others with respect in all their relationships. So the great lesson here is, don't hesitate to demand respect from your children, but remember that it must be built through your actions. When you show determination, protect yourself, and set clear boundaries, you won't just regain respect. You'll also help create a healthy and happy family dynamic. Your determination will become a role model for your children, and from that, they will learn to live responsibly and treat others with respect. When you start to feel like your children no longer respect you as they once did, the most important thing is not to let feelings of anger or disappointment take over. Instead of reacting with negative emotions, you need to handle the issue calmly and decisively. Sometimes it's your silence and confidence in your actions that have more power than arguments or criticisms. Your children don't just need you to guide them. They need you to be a role model of resilience and maturity. If you know how to protect yourself and maintain your dignity, your children will gradually recognize and respect you, not only for what you've done for them, but for how you live and how you face challenges. Lesson and application message. There's something that many parents don't realize. True respect doesn't always come from requests or detailed explanations of what you've done for your children. In reality, what brings respect back is how you stand firm, how you handle difficult situations without losing your calm or dignity. One of the things that really surprises and inspires me is that when you know how to stand strong in such situations, you not only make your children see you as strong, but also teach them a profound lesson in maturity and self-confidence. Imagine a situation where you are faced with disrespect from your children. You might feel sad, disappointed, or even angry. But instead of reacting immediately, try to think about how you can handle the situation calmly. Sometimes, what you need to do is not say anything at all, but simply stand firm, be resolute, and confident. Silence can have much more power than pointless arguments. When you don't react with anger, but instead show confidence and composure, your children will notice that you are someone with self-respect who doesn't let emotions dictate your actions. Linda's story is a perfect example. She had spent many years with her children, but always felt overlooked and unappreciated. At first, Linda tried to explain, pointing out everything she had done for her children, but this only made things worse. One day, she decided to change her approach. Instead of continuing to explain and plead for respect, Linda began to live for herself. She got involved in social activities, met friends, and found her own passions. The miracle was that when she started living her own life, her children began to respect her more. They no longer saw her as a mother who only sacrificed, but as a woman with value, a woman with her own life and worth to be respected. The message this story brings is, never forget that you deserve respect, not only for what you've done, but for who you are. When you know how to live confidently and protect your dignity, you'll see your children gradually come back to respect you. What matters is not what you do for your children, but how you live your life, how you protect yourself and maintain your self-respect. How you live is what your children will learn from, and in turn, they will respect you more than ever before. And finally, the big lesson we can take away is, respect is not something you can demand outright. It's something you can create through your actions and how you live. Never let feelings of disappointment or anger control you. Let your confidence, calmness, and decisiveness be the example for your children. When you show respect for yourself, your children will see and learn how to respect you and those around them. Respect in a family is not simply about demands or heated arguments. It is built by setting clear, firm boundaries on how you expect to be treated. When you allow your children to cross those boundaries, you are teaching them that respect can be violated. However, when you stand firm in protecting those boundaries, you not only preserve your respect, but also teach them the value of respecting themselves and others. Lesson and application message. What truly surprises and inspires me is that real respect doesn't come from confrontations or arguments. It comes from your resolve in your actions. Your children won't naturally learn to respect you just because you ask them to. They will learn it through the way you live and through the boundaries you set in your own life. At first, setting and protecting boundaries might feel challenging, especially when your children are used to you always compromising. But once you stand firm in those boundaries, you'll realize something remarkable. The respect you desire from your children will naturally return. When you begin to assert your need for respect, your children will understand that this isn't a casual request. It's a principle that must be respected. And once they realize this, they will gradually learn how to treat you properly. Think of George's story. He was a father who always sacrificed for his family. He would do anything for his children, loaning them money, taking care of them whenever they needed. But instead of being appreciated and respected, he received indifference and unreasonable demands. George was deeply disappointed and hurt because what he did for them wasn't being reciprocated. But instead of continuing to accept disrespect, he decided to make a change. He stopped automatically fulfilling every request from his children. He only helped when they showed true appreciation and made reasonable requests. And the miracle happened. His change in behavior made his children realize the value of the sacrifices he had made. They began to treat him with gratitude and respect. George's story shows us an incredibly important lesson in building respect within the family. You must know how to set boundaries and defend them. Never let disrespect become the norm in your relationship with your children. When you demand respect, you are not only protecting yourself, but also teaching your children a valuable lesson on how to respect others and build healthy relationships. The message here is, don't be afraid to set boundaries and demand respect. When you do this, you not only protect your dignity, but also teach your children how to live responsibly and respect others. Let your children see that respect is essential in every relationship and must be protected firmly. Remember, you deserve respect, not just for what you do, but for who you are and how you live. One of the difficult truths that many parents face is realizing that their children are not responsible for their happiness and satisfaction. While you love them unconditionally and crave recognition and respect from them, if you let them feel that you depend on them to feel happy, the relationship between you and them will become strained and pressured. What's important is to build a separate and independent life, not to hinge your happiness on whether they make you happy or not. When you find joy and fulfillment in your own activities, you will see that your children will naturally respect and love you more. Lesson and application message. What's surprising and inspiring that I want to share is that when you no longer rely on your children for happiness, you will realize that respect from them will come back naturally. It's hard to understand that we can love our children unconditionally but not let them feel that they must be the sole source of our joy and satisfaction. We can love our children deeply, but expecting recognition and satisfaction from them is not the way to build a healthy, respectful relationship. There's a very touching story about a woman named Helen who spent her entire life caring for her children and doing everything for them. After her children grew up and became busy with their own lives, Helen began to feel lonely and started waiting for them to call or visit. But instead of continuing to live in that waiting, she decided to change. Helen signed up for an art class, began meeting friends, and got involved in volunteer activities. As she began living her own life, something magical happened. Her children started calling and visiting her more. They no longer felt obligated to please her, but instead connected with her in a more genuine and natural way. Helen's story shows that happiness is not something you can give to others to feel fulfilled. You must find joy and fulfillment in your own life. When you find your own passions and develop yourself, you not only become independent, but also become an inspiration for your children. They will realize that you are not just a parent who sacrifices unconditionally, but someone with a meaningful, complete life. And when they see you happy and fulfilled in yourself, they will respect you more, love you more, and connect with you more naturally. The most important lesson we can learn from this story is, never let your happiness depend on your children. The love and sacrifice you give to them are unconditional, but you need to find joy and fulfillment from your own life. When you do that, your relationship with your children will become stronger, and respect will return naturally. So the big lesson here is, seek joy and satisfaction in your own life. Don't wait for your children to make you happy. When you live a full, meaningful, and independent life, you will see that your children will naturally respect and love you more. That's how you build a healthy and respectful family relationship. One of the profound lessons we can learn from family life is building relationships based on respect and independence, rather than relying on recognition from our children or anyone else. When we begin to feel that our children no longer respect us, it's crucial to understand that happiness and respect are not things we can demand or expect from others. We must be the ones to protect our dignity and rights. When we firmly set clear boundaries and stand up for ourselves, our children will realize our worth, not just for what we've done for them, but for how we live, for our self-respect and our independence. For those over 60, an important lesson is not to let your happiness depend on your children or anyone else. The love we give to our children is unconditional, but that doesn't mean we should wait for them to make us happy. Instead of letting joy and satisfaction depend on our children, we should find joy in personal activities, explore new hobbies, learn new things, and connect with peers. When you live a fulfilling and independent life, not only will your children respect and love you more, but so will those around you. Remember, respect doesn't come from demands or arguments, but from how you live and stand up for yourself. You deserve respect because you are an independent person with your own life and value. When you live this way, your children and others around you will see that you are not just a loving person, but someone worthy of admiration.